Welcome back to Tech Talk with Bill. If you're new here, my name is Bill and I teach JavaScript in a simple and beginner-friendly way using your ServiceNow personal developer environment. I came completely from a non-technical background myself, so if you're just starting out, don't worry. If I learned this from zero, you can basically learn it too. Before we begin, make sure you join as a member, like this video, and subscribe so you never miss a lesson. And if you still haven't set up your developer environment, watch the setup tutorial at the end of the screen. So today we're diving into one of the most important building blocks of JavaScript in what we call logical operators. These operators control how you script and make decisions. They are the brain of your logic. There are three main logical operators: the and, or, and not. In JavaScript, and is written as two ampersands, and or is written with two vertical bars, and not is written as an exclamation mark. So let me put some comments just to make sure we're not going to add any errors in the JavaScript. So let us start with the AND operator, and AND means both values must be positive or true. Think about entering a private building where you need an ID and your access card. If you forget either one, then you cannot enter the building. And here's what the code looks like in JavaScript. So logical operators basically assess if the argument is either true or false. So if you use and, meaning both of them should be true, or basically is a chosen outcome is either true or false, and the exclamation is just specifically false. Since both conditions are true, then the result will be true. I'd like you to test this code yourself, and as you follow along, I'd like you to get your hands dirty. If you haven't done so, create your developer instance, and you could basically copy this code and run your script and see how the variable can basically result either true or false. So being good in something, specifically in the technical field, is not memorization. It's about testing it and ensuring that it will behave as expected. Now, let us move forward and let us basically change one of them. And I'm entering this new code where you will see that we have changed the variable into false. So let us add some comments to ensure that we are not making any errors since we are creating the same name variables with different logical operators. And in this example, imagine you're trying to get a driver's license and you must pass the written exam and the driving exam. So in this next example code, you will see that you must pass the written. So eventually we hard coded the Boolean variable, which is true. And you also basically pass a driving test. And now as we implement the logical operator that both of them should pass, then it will result to true on this variable. So this comparison basically, or a logical operator, provides logic. And you could basically have three parameters, four parameters, depending on the amount of criteria that you would like to apply. So now we're talking technical because all programming does is automation. You are automating, which is something manual. And in real life scenario, you will be creating a form, and as the form has been entered, then you will receive the form and basically process it. And you will see here is like, this is the processing side. And as you evaluate based on the criteria using the technology of logical operators, then you can now evaluate based on the outcomes desired of the business. Now, in this next example, is like if the person fails even one test and will force the final answer basically to be false. So let us comment out again from line 19 to line 24. to remove the conflict. So the JavaScript engine automatically detects, which is basically helping us to ensure that everything is correct before compiling into the server side. So the server side is the engine where the client side passes the information. So what you're seeing here, which is visible to your eyes, is client side. As we pass it to be processed, then it will be server side. So what you see here is like the GS. This is the server side code. So we will go deeper as you move forward. So we're starting at the surface because you need to fully understand how the technology works. And as you enter the tech industry, what happens, you are entering a new ecosystem, and takes time, and I'd like you to be patient. Before I became an expert, I also went through this beginner's guide, and I always came back to the beginner because it's foundational as you become an expert. So what you learn now will not expire and always reusable until you become a programming expert. So in this example, the person has failed the written exams and passed driving. Now, because one of them is basically false, because you're using the AND operator where both of them should be true, then basically this will come out as false. As you can see, as I hover on top of the variable, the compiler already provides us the answer. And as you run the script right below this one here, then it will give you the correct response. So this is how the AND works. It's very strict. Both must be true. Now let us move to the OR operator. OR is more flexible. Well, you only need one condition to be true. So it's like an English language, as you can see. It's like an and and an or. So you have to be grammatically correct. Imagine you're choosing a transport to go to work. You're happy as long as you have a bus or a train available, and you don't need both. Just one is fine. So this code basically represents that. And as you become a developer mindset, where if there's a bus or there's no train, or vice versa, and you have the or operator here, then what will be the outcome? Then it will be true, because one of them is true and one of them is false, right? So it's like, it's an or, it's either or. If both of them are false, then this will come out true. So the bus isn't available, but the train is, so the or returns true. Or here's another one where you want dessert and you're okay with cake, basically ice cream. So you can see you can be a developer, either business side or a technical developer, depending who your client is. And you will still use the technical jargons of logical operators, right? So here's like both of them are false. So you don't have cake and you don't have ice cream. Then basically the outcome will also be false. In logical operators, you will see the naming convention has to be correct. And you will see here is like the way we name the variables is like has cake, has ice cream, can eat dessert. Like, so it's like a question, right? So it's like a question mark. Is it true or false, right? So it's like a naming convention which determines is our either true or false. So this determines also your skills as developer, right? Is the correct naming conventions, because it has to be readable. And as your code becomes readable and simple, the art of like technology, the simplicity represents who you are. And the more simple it becomes, the expertise is basically seen as simple as possible, because you will be working with very intelligent people, and they like-minded people like you who enters the technology space without talent, using the technology correctly on what it is for and providing a naming convention has significant impact in terms of like reasoning. So you can defend your work why you basically provided that code and your solution, because in practice, your code will be reviewed. And once your code is reviewed, they will see if you're an expert or not based on how you deliver your coding practice. So here, another simple example, you're registering for a rewards program and you can sign up using your email or your phone number. So technically speaking, you're still using an OR operator. And as you see the outcome, it's returning a Boolean type. And that Boolean type basically will return with true because you have used the OR operator and has email is basically true. So for those of you who are new to my channel, I have created a video about Boolean variables, and I will share that video at the end of the screen so you could basically deep dive and reuse that knowledge that I have basically created. So only one is indeed that returns true. Now, let us look at the not operator, which is the exclamation. Not simply flips the value. If something is true, not makes it false. If something is false, not makes it true. Think about a hotel room sign. If the sign says do not disturb, the opposite means not reverses the meaning. So it may be confusing, but you will see here, like the exclamation reverses the outcome. So you have the true, and because what is saying not true, then the outcome should be false. So I'd like you to run the script so you can basically witness yourself on how the not operator basically works. So what we're trying to say here is like the door is not locked. So you may be evaluating data that provides this information. And because your verification is saying that it's not locked, right? Then basically it will come out false. So you'll see the naming convention. Is it still a question? Is the door locked? And can the door be opened? Right? And the answer is basically false. So here's another one. You're checking if a system is down. And right now it says, by default, it's saying the system is down. And the alert team basically has checked the system is not down. So basically it comes out as true. So you can see the logical reasoning here is like, let's say you have a sensor that returns false, but the alert team basically came in and has verified, or the systems engineer came down and looked at the system, is not really down. So there's something to fix basically, and it takes an action, right? So now it's like we have a system of record, right? The record has been notified. We're notifying something, right? And now we are alerting the team and rechecking. And now the answer is basically responded. Because the system is not down, the not returns true, meaning you don't need to alert anyone. Now, before we continue, if you're learning something new today, take a second and join as a member. Hit the like and subscribe, and your support helps me continue creating videos that help beginners like you become confident developers. Now, let's combine all three operators, the and, or, and not. This is when the real power happens. Imagine a scenario inside the company. A user can approve and request if they are a manager or they are the request owner, and they are not suspended and the rest is still open. So let's write this properly. So right now, am I a manager? Am I an owner? Or am I suspended? And let us basically request to open it. And you will see how it's organized. We are adding brackets. So you can see the pattern here is like you have the or, and you have an and you have the not, right? Put together. And you can see it's like the parenthesis is quite important because as you do your code, it's all about readability, right? And this is quite important. Now, the OR checks if the user is either a manager or the owner. The not operator checks if they are not suspended and brings it all together. Let's add another combined scenario, like a shopping cart discounts, yet getting a discount if you are a member or you have a coupon. and the item is not on clearance. So I'll show you this code here. Is like, are you a member or you have a coupon, right? And on line 64, you will see here, is this under a clearance item? Now using the brackets, right? And the divider at the end. So it's like both of them should be true. Then if it's not true, then let's print it out. So eventually we're not adding any actions, what to do. And here is like, even though the customer isn't a member, they have a coupon and the item is not under clearance. So the discount applies. Here's another one with a not combined. A system should show a warning message if the user has low storage or low battery and not in power saving mode. So this is quite a lot of hands-on that you're learning. And as you get more experience and practice, you get an idea on how the logical operator works. So this returns true because low storage is already enough for the OR operator, and not in power saving mode is also true. So let's try a final quite complex example where you can submit a form if you completed the required fields and you agreed to the terms and you are not blocked, or you're an admin, you can override everything. So let us paste this code, and what you'll see, if you set is admin to true, everything becomes true no matter what. This is very common when you build logics in applications. Logical operators help you build real life decision making in your scripts. This is what transforms simple code into smart automation. And let me summarize the key ideas. And requires everything to be true, and or only needs one thing to be true, and the not flips the value. And once you combine them, you can model real-world logic in a very powerful way. Some best practices that I'd like you to learn. So basically, I'd like you to use the parentheses to make your logic easier to read. And I'd like you to keep the variable names to be meaningful and test each condition separately before combining them. And always make sure that your logic matches the real scenario you're trying to automate. Not to wrap everything up, wrap it up. Today you learn how and or not work using simple real life example, from vending machines to approvals, discounts, unlocking doors, and from submissions. By practicing these operators, you're building the foundation of your developer mindset. Don't forget to join as a member, like this video and subscribe. And if you still need to set up your developer environment, the setup video is right at the end of the screen. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Tech Talk with Bill.